One of the very first thing that I would do if I were to move back in time is to really niche down into an area that I want to get good at. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've made early on in my entrepreneurship career is to try to be good at everything, and you end up being good at nothing.
Hi guys, welcome to Taxonomy Podcast. Take me there. In today's episode, we are honored to host Jeremiah, the founders of GRYT Marketing. With a stellar track record in working with startups, Jeremiah excels in providing tailored marketing solutions for business growth, not only in local Singapore market, but also in regional markets. Join us as we dive into Jeremiah's experiences, the challenges he faced, and the innovative solutions he's bringing to the table. So without further ado, let's welcome Jeremiah.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeremiah, founder of GRYT Marketing. My background is basically I came from a pure marketing background, studied a marketing degree, graduated, found a marketing job, and yeah, things went from there. How GRYT Marketing actually came about is while working as an employee of other companies, I noticed that there is a huge gap between what brands or what we call the client side they know in-house versus the kind of skill sets that's required from existing marketing solutions, freelancers, agencies, and whatsoever. So I thought that okay, I'm able to fill this gap, and yeah, just took off, tried it out, and it just all started from there.
I see. So, I mean, just now you just shared on your experience working with startups, and so that's actually how you came about to having the idea of starting GRYT Marketing. So, maybe do you want to do some sharing in terms of your roles and responsibility in running your business?
I mean, as the founder, your roles and responsibilities kind of like
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, it
Yes.
encompasses everything from, finance, sales, even your own internal marketing, fulfillment, operations, and troubleshooting, customer service, things like that. I think as a founder, you kind of have to do everything, or you need to find someone to be able to help you in certain areas that you're not as good at.
I see. I mean, coming back to the question on GRYT Marketing, right? Because you mentioned that it's actually delivering a marketing solution to the general, I mean, public or in startups, or what would be the ideal or your unique value proposition in terms of your main service coming from GRYT Marketing?
Very good question. So right now we are actually more specialized towards a consumer type of marketing. So
Mm.
in the general landscape, there are different type of businesses, B2C, B2B, even B2G in government. So where we specialize in is really in B2C marketing, and the skill sets and the type of marketing required for both B2B, B2C varies widely, right? And we are really narrowing down in the consumer side of things. We do that mainly through paid social, influencer marketing, conversion rate optimization, email marketing, and so on and so forth.
I mean, what would be the marketing business like in specific? Like you mentioned about, being in the consumer or targeting B2C, doing user-generated content. So how do you actually find out and learn more about, how do you, forecast or can determine the trend of UGC in your
Mm,
perspective? But that
mm,
would be something that I believe most of your client would be interested to learn more, right? Because
mm.
B2C marketing is not something that is rarely seen nowadays because it's more and more common because of the B2C market, right? Consumer market is actually very large in terms of the economic scale, right? So, but how do you basically create targeted content, right? Specifically to the need of your clients, because they could be coming from various sectors, right? Could be from F&B, could be from FMCG, or many other consumers product.
That's a very good question. So broadly speaking, we kind of have a standard process where we apply to all new clients. The first
Yeah.
stage is we'll apply the best practices. Now, these are things that we've learned through trial and error and experience. And these are more generalizable rule of thumbs that we can apply to any new client that comes in. What we usually see is generally these kind of best practices, they tend to make an impact almost right away. And obviously, as you mentioned, every business is a bit unique depending on their industry, their product type, their customer segment, and stuff like that. So that's where we fine-tune the strategies and the workflow to suit every client. And we do that through trial and error, or what we call continuous improvement. It's basically A/B testing or multivariate testing, and it never ends. And the third step, after getting to a somewhat optimal and efficient level, we will tend to leverage on things like trend and marketing innovation to bring our clients to greater heights.
Sure. So jumping on the point just now, Jeremiah, when you mentioned about UGC, right, which is user-generated content, right? So how would you basically define it as a general term, which the public actually perceive it, right? To exactly how would you define it from GRYT's marketing perspective?
Okay, sure. So I think, to really understand the evolution of UGC or user generated content, we need to understand like how it even came out in the first place. In the past 10 years, there's been a big rise in the use of social media. And as a consequence of that, people create content on social media that looks very layman. It looks amateurish. And that resonates with people because, you scroll your Instagram feed and you see like, okay, this is a post created by my friend, right? Now, think about it when brands start coming onto social media platforms and they start creating branded kind of content, branded ads, very overproduced kind of content on social media. The consumer behavior on social media has been such that once you even spot a hint of content being overly produced from a brand, you tend to switch off, you tend to scroll right away without even absorbing the message. Your defenses are up. And that's what created the rise of user generated content, where brands are starting to create content that looks like it comes from users, very unpolished, somewhat amateurish looking, and that disarms the users on social media, that gets them to pay attention to the content until it's too late. They realize it's an ad afterwards. So that's the rise of user generated content. Now, what is the general perception of UGC? Their perception is that as long as the content looks and feels like a user generated content, it's good. So how they do this is usually they work with content creators or influencers to create such content. But while working with all these third party people, there is a small gap in their end goal or alignment. For content creator, they specialize in creating content that engages their audience. So they will optimize for things such as how much positive comments they get, how engaging the content is, how long people view their video. But that being said, optimizing for all this will not help or might not help your business bottom line. At the end of the day, what businesses truly care about is, sales, revenue, qualified leads, right? And there's this gap there. Like business, they engage all these third-party content creators to create UGC content for them to improve their business bottom line. But at the same time, these content creators are actually creating content to improve their own engagement, get more followers. And as a result, a lot of businesses are seeing that UGC might not work as well for them. So seeing this gap in the market, my perspective was to blend both the business and the UGC side of things together. So we kind of created this solution or service called a performance UGC, where we essentially blend the best of both worlds. How it works essentially is we create many different variation of UGC content or ad, and then we test them out using an ad campaign, and we find a winning version, and we piece them all together into a final video. That is performance UGC in short. But generally, I believe that the UGC landscape can be improved. Content creators can be more focused on brand results and create content more tailored towards brand results. You will sacrifice a bit in terms of engagement for sure, because at the end of the day, it is an ad, it's not pure entertainment content. But what matters is that the content that you push out benefits the brand, moves the needle, benefits its bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, just like you mentioned, because I'm also a founder myself, right? I believe that what you mentioned as a founder, you tend to do everything most of the time yourself, especially in the initial stage, right? I mean, one thing that I've done before is basically marketing. So, I mean, one question coming from my end would be, I mean, you mentioned about you break it down into phase one, phase two, right? So how would you know how to basically effectively break it down so that you know what kind of KPI to set for each? Is there industry standards or any framework that you guys actually formulated yourself?
I mean, this is a very interesting question because with regards to KPI, there is really no defined or standardized way of setting KPIs in the entire marketing industry currently. And this is also what creates sort of a challenge within the marketing industry in the sense that basically KPI is up for discussion, negotiation. And what happens is marketers, they tend to choose a KPI that's most convenient for them. For example, things like website traffic, clicks, reach. These
Mm.
are KPIs that are easy to move, you're easily able to influence them, but at the same time, they do not move much in terms of the bottom line. It's better to focus on like the bottom line KPIs. These are harder to improve, yes, but they are more realistic, tangible, and it's a better sell towards management or the CEOs or leaders somewhat rather than all these vanity metrics.
So in terms of the material that you guys are delivering to your end client, what would those typically be? And maybe you can share more about that.
Okay, so let's just use a hypothetical consumer business, for example. Probably they sell like dresses, fashion, right? So when they come to us, what we'll do is we'll take a look at all their current marketing channels, how are they performing in terms of the marketing and sales side of things. And we will try to identify, okay, what are they doing well? What are they doing not so well? And we tend to focus on the 80-20 rule. Usually, 20% of the things you're doing well brings you 80% of the results. And subsequently, 20% of the things that you're not doing so well is like dragging down the results by 80%. So using this very simple principle, we can already identify what's working very well and what's not working very well. And we either double down on what's working well or cut out what's absolutely not working at all for them. And almost instantly you will see an improvement there. And that's what we call best practices. Like so once that is done, obviously, we have to see what the business requires to go further. Um, Example for this fashion brand, maybe they need more advertising, so we'll create more digital advertising for them. Where will they promote the advertising? Will it be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever? We need to run a test to figure out which product sells the best. We need to run a test to figure out, right? What is the baseline customer acquisition cost? Need to run a test to figure that out, and subsequently, how we're going to improve the customer acquisition cost. So there are so many things to test, and that's down to us to create a structured way to test out all these hypotheses and get these insights, which will not just help us run better marketing for clients, but also help the client make better business decisions.
Yeah, so Jeremiah, from your experience, right, working with startups or
Mm,
various clients in your field of work within marketing, right, what would be one of the prime example that you actually use to describe as most memorable
mm,
or the most challenging, right?
mm. Yeah, I think one of the most memorable experience is one of working with one of our client. They are basically a local bakery brand, and for this client, the good thing is that they are very open to ideas. They are very open to trying a lot of things out. So when we came in, we managed to really get full access to all of their data to be to be able to identify like where the gaps are in their marketing. And from there, we can give suggestions. I recall one of the biggest gap that we identified was they relied too much on their existing customers and they're not relying on new customers to drive, basically for their revenue. So what we did was to shift their focus on acquiring new customers, people buying for them from the first time. Because once these people buy the first time, if you delight them, they're probably going to come back and buy again. So that's one of the things that we've done. We've also done a lot of A/B testing for them to identify things that will improve their bottom line. For example, one of the biggest thing that we found was that when they were promoting their cakes series, they there's actually a difference between promoting girl gendered cake and a boy gendered cake. For girls, certain characters resonate with them, and for boys, other characters resonate with them. Um, and for girls, they tend to buy like the more princessy cakes. Parents will buy all these princessy, cuter cakes for the girls, whereas for the boys, it's more boy theme. And by splitting up the ads that way, we are able to get better results than just having a general like, oh, this is cake kind of ad. We've also managed to push the boundaries of marketing. So, for example, we were running some sort of giveaway campaign for the client, and then we embed a paid actor to go in there and to basically make a fool of himself in a cute way. We took a video for it. We made it look very like the kind of videos you see of Stomp or something like that, and we seeded that to the media outlets. One of the media outlet picked it up, and basically, yeah, that amplified the entire campaign, and I think we got about 1.5 million views in 7 days. Not too sure how that affects the bottom line in terms of the sales, but participation definitely did increase significantly after that video went viral.
Yep. So yeah, I basically get the point on the A/B testing because I also tried on my own. I was trying to do some TikTok content previously, right? Where actually I generated some content that you mentioned a bit more on the UGC side of perspective, where I generated content based on food blog itself, right? And it is the same thing, right? Initial stage, from my own experience, we were also testing between, should we do more on the food blogging, or should we do more on the introduction of the food through the taste or reviews? So I think this definitely relates to what you just shared, right? In terms of various content. I'm coming from the perspective of UGC, so it's more relatable to the audience who are actually viewing the materials that you guys actually post on social media. Right. So things that I have done, I mean, definitely 1.5 million is an impressive figure, right, over 7 days. Definitely not what I have achieved over a span of 4 months. I mean, from a various experience, right, it seems like you have experience almost with other startups and also clients from different aspects or different sectors, right? What are some of the key lessons that you have learned from your journey as an entrepreneur? Because I believe you have been running this business for a few years now.
Yep.
So how have all this, experience that you actually, accumulated helps to shape your mindset or as a person?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of entrepreneurship, I guess the biggest lesson that I've learned is that you will fail a lot, but the biggest failure is in not learning anything from your failures. So as long as you learn something, you continuously make progress, you know, it's good. Um, that's on the entrepreneurship side of things. Uh, your first idea will not be your best idea for sure. So, it's going to be a hard journey, tough journey, but I think entrepreneurs are a special breed of people that would love this kind of challenge. Yeah, that is one. In terms of marketing side of things, there is a lot of lessons that I have ever since I dive deep into the marketing industry. I guess one of the main ones that I learned is how um there is this ideal perception of what the marketing industry is like, and then there's reality. And right now we are in this point in time where there is a lot of shenanigans in the market. The industry is pretty pretty messy, I would say, and it's not the best. And there's a lot of problems in this industry, from players on both sides, the buy side and sell side. Yeah, and it's an eye opener, that's for sure.
I mean, what would be some of the key hiccups or challenges that you once encountered? Because I mean, probably you can share a bit more with our audience as well, so they will know actually what to prevent doing or to avoid doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first of all, one of the biggest challenge is actually the entrepreneur, the founder, or the marketing manager themselves. Because at the end of the day, the ones making the decisions are them, and they tend to have their own perception, belief, and bias, which usually it's not easy to persuade otherwise. So one of the hardest thing for people to do is actually to let go and trust whoever you're working with. And that has been a huge challenge. Personally, my belief is that if there is no barrier to changing the mindset of decision makers, it's pretty easy to move the needle and to make impact on businesses. The bigger challenges for marketers and agencies alike is to actually convince decision makers that what you're suggesting is the right way and getting them to believe you on it. That has been one of the biggest challenge, and I'm pretty sure a lot of marketers will agree with that. Yeah. In terms of other challenges, I guess the the technological landscape right now um is evolving in a way that is not ideal for marketers. You hear things like iOS 14 where they strip away all the tracking data, and I think tracking data is one of the most valuable resources for marketers. You see major advertising platforms trying to force advertisers to broaden up their advertising inventory, which is good for the platforms to make more money, but it's not good for marketers who want more control over their targeting, their placements, and stuff like that. And yeah, you see a lot of newer entrants ever since COVID, people wanting to enter the marketing space either as freelancers or as agency owners. There's this whole term SMMA, social media marketing agency, and these are people with almost zero experience coming into the space and making big bold claims of what they can achieve. And this kind of muddies the water a little bit on what's good and what's bad because there is a lot of noise in the market. Everyone's making big claims, and it's all about who can make the bigger claim that gets the clients, right? So there's a lot of challenges here in the landscape, basically.
I mean, yeah. So, would you say there will be a big difference as compared to the marketing landscape on Singapore perspective, just locally, and as compared to the global? Is there a very big differentiation between both?
Yeah, there is a very big difference between Singapore and global landscape. So for Singapore, I think we tend to hold a very skeptical frame of mind. So it's really when you talk to any business owners or any marketing managers or directors, they tend to first approach it with a skeptical mind first, and it will take a while to kind of earn their trust. Whereas globally, say US, for example, they tend to be more trusting, but at the same time, there is issues such as time differences. There's like a 11 to 12 hours difference with here and US. There's also an issue with expectations from, clients and business owners on the US side of things. They expect a lot. They're also willing to pay a lot, that's for sure. Yeah. And maybe in countries as neighboring Singapore, purchasing power isn't that high, so budget is a huge issue. And marketing at the end of the day is reliant on manpower, and manpower is not cheap in Singapore. So yeah, that causes an issue with you know reaching out to clients in neighboring countries.
I mean, recently, if I mean, if you, I mean, believe you understand based on the China landscape, right, based on the Chinese market, there were a lot of fast adoption of, AI technology in terms of the marketing, right? I mean, how the Chinese basically accelerated the pace of marketing by leveraging on AI technology. How would marketing role be, evolve, right, or transform to a way to how it is being positioned right now, would there be a very big difference? I mean, incorporating AI into marketing solutions, right? And then how do you foresee this from your own perspective?
I hold a more polarizing opinion compared to other marketers in this space, in the sense that I do believe that AI has kind of been overhyped for marketing. We are at this stage where everyone is going AI, AI, AI. They are trying to force AI as a solution into whatever challenges that they face. And this cannot be more true for marketing. In fact, I think one of the earliest use cases of AI has been in marketing, copywriting, for example. And I think it's pretty much overdone. If you look at the marketing landscape, it is pretty much a zero sum kind of landscape. You need to continuously do better than your competitors, make a better claim, be more outstanding, be more memorable in order to attract potential customers to shop with you, to buy from you, right? And using AI, there isn't that element of innovation and competitiveness. They can help you solve already existing problems that you have. They can make operations easier, yes, but they can't help you, do better than what is currently what the current level is. At the end of the day, all these models are trained on data, and there's a limit to how much they can think outside of the box as compared to a human. Yeah, so I do believe there is a limitation to how much AI can help. We are at this phase where AI is currently being hyped up. There's a novelty effect, all the image generation and stuff like that. It helps, yes, but eventually I feel that all this hype will wear off, and we will be right back where we started.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's there to accelerate and basically fasten the process, but I do think it's there to replace human being. Yeah, it's basically a way that how can we find a position, right, to complement each other during the process. I recall that do have experience working with overseas clients as well. I mean, venturing out of Singapore would be a tough decision to make, right? So, I mean, for yourself, what would be some of the key consideration point if, and back then when you were, or right now, if you were to, decided to venture into a new market, right? What would be some of your top thinking process?
Well, I guess the top thing that I would do before venturing into a new market globally would kind of be to ask or survey people around on what the culture is like, what the landscape is like, what their existing solutions is like. Because I believe that every country has its unique culture, and this culture it is not easy for someone outside of the country who hasn't been living there for half their life, their entire life, to understand. This will affect the decision making of the people and the businesses in that country. And I think it's key to understand that, because if you just apply a default strategy, maybe what has worked in Singapore, you just apply it overseas, it might not work. Perhaps in countries that's culturally similar to Singapore, maybe more of the Western countries, it might work to a degree, but there are still nuances that we do not know and we do not understand, which we need to really grasp in order to effectively, land and expand in those countries.
Mm. Honestly, I mean, in terms of challenges, I mean, things like, price war, quality of work, right, or, creativity of your content or your material that you guys actually churn out. I mean, what would be some of the key challenges that from your experience in the new market, like, for example, Southeast Asia region, let's say Thailand, right? I believe you are more active in Thailand as well. So what would you say in terms of the differentiating point? Is it price? Is it quality, or is it the work culture that you find that is the most challenging from your perspective?
Yeah, so price will always be a consideration in almost any industry or business. The issue with the marketing landscape or any service-based business is that winning on price alone will not set you up for success. There will always be someone that does it cheaper, and there will be new entrants that will go all the way down to free. They will work for free just to get experience. So you can never win in terms of price. And even if you do win in price, delivery is a huge thing in the service business. So an optimal strategy, which I am kind of figuring out and I'm leaning towards now, is to focus more on outcome and quality of work rather than just focusing on price. You won't be the cheapest, yes, but you'll be pretty darn sure that whatever you're delivering is better or significantly better than what others can deliver.
So during your engaging process with your client, right? I mean, other than showcasing the price, how do you usually convince them into, buying the fact that you guys can produce better quality? I mean, what are some of the key strategy that you usually use during
Mm,
client engagement?
mm. So a lot of it has got to do with really understanding the business problem and situation, and then considering with our current solutions and skill set, are we able to help them? Are we able to solve the problem? I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of newer agencies make is they tend to work with any business that has money,
Yeah.
right? They want to get paid as fast as possible. But they're setting themselves up for failure in the long run, because even if the client have money, but you are not able to help them, you do not have the skill set, you do not have the expertise or knowledge to help them, you're just setting yourself up for failure. A better way would be to truly understand, to identify the kind of problems that you know very well and you have solved 100 times before, and then saying, hey, I've done this 100 times before. I'm very confident that my way of solving this is going to be best for you. It's going to be the most efficient, it's going to be fastest, and it's probably going to be cheapest if you consider the short and long term impact of things, right? And that will kind of resonate with the client, who will be like, they will understand better that, okay, your agency is good at solving this kind of problem. I have this problem, and yeah, I want to work with you compared to other agencies who are probably better at solving other problems which I might not have.
I mean, what are some of the key tips? For example, if today I'm a new entrant, right, I want to start up a business probably in the same field, right, in the marketing space. What would be some of the tips that you will give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are watching our podcast to basically understand, well, what would be the very first steps and the subsequent key steps
Mm.
to embark?
Well, I guess the key thing is to always be learning and improving, because especially for marketing, whatever you read online, whatever YouTube tutorial you watch is not enough. The kind of information that's readily available online is very surface. It serves you well as a foundational knowledge base. But if you really want to be good at it, online material is not enough. You have to actually get real actual experience, and that can only be done by either diving in and trying, failing, making mistakes and learning, or you can get a mentor who has done it before, who has been there, who have made the mistakes that you were probably going to make anyways. He or she can advise that, I've done this before, this is what I've learned, you should try to avoid this, or you should do this. That would be kind of like my biggest tip and advice. And also don't compete on price. Yeah.
I see. I totally agree on the fact that do not compete on price, but instead focus more on how do you provide value in advance. There was a article that I came upon from this one of the online, they call it deal closer, right? There's a differentiator between sales and do you do deal closing, right? So it's a very different ball game, right? Deal closing basically focus more on bringing value in advance. That means you guys build the relationship, right? You showcase that your capability through some of your framework that you have done before, or portfolio that you have delivered before, right? Through providing them or the clients, I would say, much more intelligence in terms of information, right? Before embarking onto a project, right? So this is something that I find will be quite meaningful, not just to the audience, but actually to anyone that I know. This is something that I usually share. Actually, this is quite important for us to close the deal, right? Rather than just focusing more on the quality as well as the price point, right? Something that I believe is to bring up the value in advance so that it makes them feel that, oh, even before we are closing something, right? This guy is already showing a lot more value, right, in terms of the business perspective, right? That there's no reason why that they should actually turn down the deal to having the opportunity to work with us. Yeah, so I find this is essential. So I think coming back to the on the rapid fire sessions. So if you do have a superpower, right, to move back in time or forward in time, what will you choose, and what would be the key reason why?
Back in time for sure, because I can avoid all the mistakes that I've probably made given the knowledge that I have now. Mistakes do create a lost opportunity cost. They do have a cost to them. And if I know what I know now and I move back all the way back in time, I can avoid making those mistakes and probably, you know, scale faster.
Is there anything that you will want to do specifically to I mean your business that you want to make change? Like knowing what went wrong, how would you actually apply it
Yeah,
to
I think one of the very first thing that I would do if I were to move back in time is to really niche down into an area that
Mm,
I want to get good at, because I think one of the biggest mistakes that I've made early on in my entrepreneurship career is to try to be good at everything, and you end up being good at nothing, right? Instead, niche down, be really, really, really good in a few key areas, be really, really good at helping a certain market segment. And yeah, I think once you establish yourself there, it's going to be much easier to move across to adjacent market. I think that would be one of the biggest or first things that I would do. One of the second things that I would do, and no offense to my previous employer, is not to quit too early. The financial cushion from having a full-time job it really helps with the mental part and stress. Yeah, so for context, like I started the agency when I was still working full-time, so you can call it a side hustle. But I think COVID kind of gave me a huge confidence booster to quit my job, my full-time job, and to focus on this business full-time. So I think that's one of the things that I would not do again, is to quit my full-time job too early. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean that we all have our own lesson, right? I mean sometimes there's pros and cons, right? When you're down on your financial cushion and or when you get too comfortable, right? I mean, at different situation you tend to make different decisions, right? I mean that's what shapes us who we are today. Yeah. I mean that's great. I mean regarding your own venture, right, in groups marketing, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years in terms of your business or as an individual?
So I do believe one of the key areas that I will see great in the next 3 years is to really establish yourself as one of the key players for consumer brands. If you're a consumer brand, you're thinking of outsourcing your marketing, hopefully one of the very first agency that will come to your mind is GRYT Marketing 3 years down the road. Because by then we would have worked with a ton of brands, gain a ton of experience, know what is working, what is not working, to the point that any consumer business comes to us, we're easily able to identify, okay, here's your problem, and here is the exact things you need to do to instantly grow your business, make an impact, improve, gain more revenue, more customers.
I mean, given your current experience and your previous past experience working with various startups, I mean, what would be your definition of a successful company?
Well, a successful company is one where I can put my hands off and they can run by themselves. And I think a lot of smaller businesses make this um mistake where they are working in the business, not on the business.
Yeah.
Right? And even now, I still am working in the business. But hopefully, we can get to a point where I do not have to worry about running the day-to-day operations, and I think more strategically, or the big picture kind of thinking.
Yeah, that's what I want to.
That's what
So you
everyone wants.
Yeah, so you can keep complete hands off on your business and trust that someone else would run your business for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I think that can be done. Right, just needs to take more effort and time and resources to plan out to ensure that things actually move out smoothly in terms of the operation, right? As well as the business perspective to ensure that you don't just stop getting leads or opportunity, right? You get passive, right, leads along the way. Now, I think thanks so much, Jeremiah, for this session of podcast with you. So to end this session, as we conclude, keep in mind that every entrepreneur started with an idea and determinations. So take your first step, pursue your passion, and inspire others along the way. So thank you for joining us on Take Me There. Until next episode, stay inspired and keep pushing boundaries. Ciao.